Previously on Jorgrim. Raven Hill was unlike anything Jorgrim had faced before. The dead were one thing, the spirits were another. Ghosts ignored the rules of battle. The wells of souls had to be destroyed. One by one, Jorgrim hunted them down, but the lesson remained the same. Keep moving forward. But Mannshire had more work waiting. The old chapel stood corrupted. Its halls belonged to bloodsuckers, creatures that turned wounds into weapons. Every cut strengthened them. Every mistake fed them. They controlled the fight through blood itself. Then came the strongest among them, larger, stronger. The difference in size meant nothing. His axes finished the work. The corpses burned, the chapel was cleansed. And when the flames finally died, Varen was already waiting at camp. As usual, he had an idea. And as usual, it sounded like more trouble. The road to Winery wasn't entirely quiet. There was fighting along the way, nothing worth mentioning, but it helped Jorgrim avoid thinking too much. Just fight and keep moving. When the winery finally came into view, Jorgrim prepared the proof of the boss he had killed to confirm the job was done and claimed his reward. Another contract completed, another payment earned. Simple. Before leaving, he asked if there was any more work available. The answer was no. No new contracts. Nothing in Mannshire. The owner overheard the conversation, and just as Jorgrim was about to leave, he stopped him. Maybe there was something after all. Not a contract, just a job. One of the winery's employees had disappeared, and several bottles of wine had disappeared with him. Jorgrim accepted the job and set out once again. The thief was found. Jorgrim spoke to him, asking for the wine to be returned. There was no agreement, no understanding. Jorgrim had nothing more to say, but his axes did. They always solve things in a simple way. The fight ended. The thief died where he fell, bleeding out. For Jorgrim, that was not his concern. The work was the only thing that mattered. The wine was there, buried. Jorgrim didn't take long to grab a shovel and dig it out. He took the bottles of wine and kept moving. The task was done. Now it was only a matter of claiming the job once again. Back at the camp, Jorgrim spoke about Mannshire. There were no more contracts, no more work left in the area. The caravan listened. Varen reacted immediately. It's time for business. That meant one thing. Bryn, the great city. The caravan would travel there again, not for contracts, for trade. Everything had value there. Wine, loot, jewels, anything taken from the work in Mannshire could be sold for more in the city. It was a necessary trip. Gold was needed, tools were needed, The camp had to keep improving, so when contracts returned, the work would be faster, more efficient. Jorgrim did not say much, but he understood. With business quickly finished, Jorgrim and the caravan returned to Mannshire. The town was still the same, and still empty of contracts. Varen didn't wait long. He had another idea, a hunter for the caravan. Someone to guide them outside dungeons, outside contracts. Someone useful when the road itself became the job. Jorgrim did not know Aldor well. He did not question it. He accepted Varen's judgment. Mannshire only stayed still long enough to restock basic supplies. Then the caravan set out again, following the lead toward where the hunter could be found. At the marked destination given by Varen, Jorgrim arrived. The task was clear: find the hunter. But the roads of Aldor were not that simple. Not just walking, not just following a line forward. Fights returned, and the axes were part of it again. For Jorgrim, these fights were useful. They filled the emptiness left by Mannshire's lack of work. And they kept him moving, following Varen's instructions, an experienced former mercenary who still knew how to read the road better than most. As he pushed deeper into the region, more bandits began to appear. Again and again they stepped into his path, and once more Jorgrim's axes rose to meet them. The hunter was close now. Jorgrim had spent the journey clearing obstacles from his path. Anything useful was taken. The rest was left behind. The work had to be done. That was all that mattered. and anyone who chose to stand in his way simply became part of the work. Part of the work for Jorgrim and his axes. When Jorgrim finally arrived at Ernst's hut, he found something unexpected. The hunter they were looking for was not there, but his legacy was. His daughter, the heir to the knowledge her father had spent a lifetime gathering. Inside the hut, Jorgrim explained why he had come. He spoke of the caravan, of the roads ahead, of the need for someone who understood Aldor better than they did. Someone who could guide them through lands still unknown. Someone whose experience would matter long before the axes were needed. Alda listened. Questions were asked. Answers were given. When the conversation was over, a decision had been made. Alda agreed to join the caravan. The task was complete. Alda's role in the caravan was simple: knowledge. She had not been recruited to fight. She had been recruited because she knew the land. She knew where creatures could be found and where they should be avoided. She knew the signs most travelers missed, the kind of knowledge that kept people alive. There were practical benefits as well. Jorgrim would no longer need to make his own hunter nets. Alda could provide them. One less thing to worry about. One more useful tool for the road ahead. In Aldor, knowledge was survival, and efficient survival was exactly what Jorgrim needed in a land he was only beginning to understand. Jorgrim had done enough exploring for one day. That part of the journey was over. The traveling was not. The camp still needed improvements, and there was always another task waiting. This time, the goal was simple: livestock. Chickens for eggs and cooking. Messenger pigeons for communication over long distances. Useful additions for a camp that intended to keep growing. The problem was obtaining them. Both required grain, and grain could only be found in one place: Osbrook. So once again, the road called. And once again, Jorgrim answered. When the caravan returned, the camp finally settled. Fire in the center, simple food, alcohol passed around without ceremony. A brief pause between movements. Jorgrim sat with them. That alone had become more common without him noticing. The day's work was over, but his body did not fully agree with rest. Small things lingered. The weight of travel, the repetition of fighting, the way silence always appeared when nothing was being done. Varen spoke about future work, planning what needed to be prepared next. Jorgrim listened without much reaction, but not without attention. There were moments now where his focus sharpened for no reason. Not during combat, after it, when everything went quiet. Like something in him stayed slightly too alert for too long. He drank at the fire. His hand stayed on the axe longer than necessary before letting go. Nothing was wrong, but something had started to remain after the fighting ended, and it did not leave as easily as before. With Osbrook's matters settled, the camp kept growing. People Jorgrim once saw as tools were no longer just that. They stayed longer. They spoke more. They became something closer to companions than equipment. And that brought a familiar pressure back, a quiet weight in his gut, one he did not name. When they returned to Mannshire, it grew heavier. A new contract waited. The ancient troll. Signal tower had gone silent. No guards returned. No mercenaries succeeded. Now it was Jorgrim's turn. It was not fear of the creature, not really. It was something else. The work no longer felt like just work, and that made it harder to ignore what had been buried for a long time. The loss of his brothers in Fjall, the silence that followed them. That feeling returned now, at the worst possible moment. Only the tavern and a bit of alcohol could keep it down for a while. Not gone, just quiet.